I just woke up this morning and I was like, was that all a big dream? Well, no, my vagina's like, it's definitely not a dream. That was real. Half a litre of blood's coming out, plus a baby, plus I got 5 people that I don't even know staring at the insides of my vagina. Like, who cares about a bit of poo? I feel like I've just been hit by a bus and sat on a blender. That's how I feel. I know that now it's like a whole new game, which I'm excited to play. Cannot get over the fact that this is, number one, my baby, and number two, came out of me. You're crazy. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I am going to recap basically what happened. I gave birth less than 24 hours ago, and it was a really fast labour. It was a natural birth with no pain relief. Call me crazy. And yeah, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about that. This is also kind of just so that I can remember, because even it being less than 24 hours ago, like, I feel like it's some kind of dream still, to be honest. Throughout the whole day yesterday, I just kept looking at the baby being like, how? So yeah, first time mum, very smitten and proud and emotional and in pain and excited and just like so many things at the same time. So in this video, I'd like to share my story about the birth whilst things are still fresh in my mind. So I'll do my best to tell you everything. Do enjoy this video, and yeah, let's begin. So I thought that labour was going to be like some soft signs of labour, sort of like an easy labour, active labour, transition and pushing. Like, these are the stages of what you understand to be labour. And I was sort of waiting for these soft signs, but like my cervix was 1 centimetre dilated when I had my check at 39 weeks, and he hadn't dropped. He was still quite high in my belly. I had not lost my mucus plug, nor did I have a bloody show. Like, nothing indicated that I was in the process of labour. But on the weekend, after being really hot all pregnancy, I suddenly felt like quite cold, and my husband, like, we held hands and he's like, oh my goodness, like, your hands are really cold. And I checked, is getting cold a soft sign of labour? And he was like, yes, actually. So if you get cold 24 hours before the time that you're expecting your baby, this could be a soft sign of labour. I did not know that. I also felt just different, and it's really difficult to pinpoint what it was. It wasn't an ache as such, I just felt different in my body. Yeah, quite strange really. But yeah, I felt like that Saturday and Sunday, but I still went about my way, you know, went to do some editing in a coffee shop and went shopping with my husband. We had some lunch together, you know, it was kind of like life as usual. Then I woke up on Monday morning at 3:30 and I felt like period cramps, and I know for sure that that is most definitely one of the real beginning signs. And I was like, maybe it's labour. So that was 3:30. I got out of bed, I brought some blankets downstairs and just sat on the sofa. Good morning. Please excuse the fact that I look like a lion. And by 4 a.m, I mean, it was undeniable. You know, it was just undeniably contractions. They were happening every 2 or 3 minutes, which I was expecting them to be maybe like every 30 minutes or something like that. And they were shockingly strong. In my like birth vlog, I started filming and being like, oh, maybe it's the beginning. Because I think deep down I knew it was, but I had absolutely no idea and no anticipation that it would be so fast. So I promise you, like at 4 o'clock, I think I just like decided to get up and get on, and I started cleaning and just distracting myself. By 6 o'clock, I was like, oh my God, we need to get packing, we need to go. Those like I couldn't talk through them. Those were kind of what I imagined to be as like active labour. Yes, active labour. So I was really thrown because I kind of prepared like for the easy labour or for like, you know, the early start point. I would distract myself, I would put up the Christmas tree, I'd watch Love Actually, I'd really get into Christmas mode and just like basically distract myself from the fear of labour or the intensity of the contractions anyway. No time for that. I mean, I wore my pyjamas. I did not change. In fact, I'm still wearing them now, but I'm not the most able-bodied, but more on that later. So yeah, around 6 o'clock I went upstairs. I said to my husband, we're having a baby today. And he was all sort of like just woken up, sort of, you know, one way to wake someone up on a Monday morning. I think you're going to be a dad today.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you self-healing?
Yeah. Really strong.
Oh.
Like we might have to go quickly.
Really? Quickly?
It really hurts.
Oh, really?
So he did his packing. I sort of like just, I don't know, I didn't really achieve very much other than just groaning on the floor every, you know, 2 minutes. Then the taxi driver came. In Japan, there is something like a maternity taxi that you can call beforehand, and they'll be completely ready for you when you go into labour. They'll know exactly where you're going, and the taxi driver is more prepared for the woman to be in a bit of a state. But we didn't book that actually. So my husband ordered a normal taxi, which arrived, you know, within 10 minutes. And I said to him as I was like about to get in, I said, does he know? Is he ready? Because I'm definitely gonna have contractions in the thing. He said, no, he doesn't know. So I was a bit like, oh God, I'm sorry, taxi driver, but I just got in and, you know, you kind of think like, right, I'll try and control myself. With contractions, like your body is doing the job. And my husband asked me afterwards, like, what kind of pain, like, how was the pain of labour? And I was like, it's indescribable. Like it's intensity, it is pain in areas that you've like never felt before. Yes, indescribably painful, but so much more than that. On a good and bad side. Yeah, difficult to explain. So anyway, 40-minute taxi journey, me having contractions every 2-3 minutes. And I'm about to get another one. I got to the clinic and had a contraction like in the hall. Then got up into the lift, managed to get to the 5th floor, had a contraction in the reception. Did a pee test and had a contraction on my way back from there. I was just sort of like buckling over, squatting on the floor, like trying to breathe through them, but like the intensity was unbelievable. I think like somehow deep in my mind, I was like, I must be further on than I think I am. Like this can't be easy labour. Or is it called easy labour? It should not be called easy labour. You know, the easier one anyway. Then I was checked and I was 8 centimetres dilated. I mean, that was just a wonderful thing to hear. And, you know, I just arrived at the clinic and straight away after checking me, they said, right, do you want an epidural or not? I'd always been a bit on the fence. So initially I was like, what crazy person is going to give birth to a human with no pain relief? Like, that's madness. So I just always assumed that epidural was the thing that you did. But in Japan, it's not such a common thing. And I also did a bit of reading up and I see that, you know, whilst I don't judge anyone for getting pain relief, in fact, it's probably a smart move in certain aspects anyway. I noticed that there was quite a few perks to having a natural delivery, such as a lower chance of, what's it called, interference, or like when they have to use forceps or vacuums or cut you and stuff like that. If you can naturally feel what's kind of going on.
Yes, baby.
So at that point, I was like, if I'm 8 centimetres already, maybe I don't need it. And I also kind of just wanted to see if I could do it. And the fact that I wasn't like, oh my God, give me the drugs now. It was more just sort of like, should I? So I thought, you know, I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try it without the epidural. Also in Japan, it costs about $2,000 to get an epidural, like $2,000. So I was kind of like, I might just get myself some really nice earrings instead. No, but I just, in that moment, I was like, I couldn't decide, I couldn't think straight. I was like, okay, it's fine, you know, because I'm already where I was at. He was born on his due date, which honestly was like the #1 day I did not assume he'd come, because I thought babies just don't come on their due date, but he's very, very well behaved and organised. Definitely half Japanese in his punctuality. Like 11th of December was his due date, and my doula came, she was there, and she was like, you will not believe, there is currently like 11 babies being born right now. It was just like everyone decided that 11th of December was the day. And my husband said, what kind of room would you like? I was like, the biggest, most gorgeous and most expensive, obviously. Like if I'm going to stay in hospital for 5 days and be in so much pain, like I want to feel comfortable, I want to have a bath, you know, or I want to just like have options kind of thing. But unfortunately, that room was not available. So they put me into sort of like a spare room, but an available, I don't know what it was. And to be honest, I didn't really care. It had a bed, I could lie down, I could breathe through these increasingly more intense contractions. This is a big piece of advice I have to anyone who's kind of going into labour, is make the most of those pauses between contractions, number one, and number two, the breath work. At all stages of the labour, the breath work, I think, changed the experience for me for the better, like times a million. Let me tell you more about that in a sec. So I was lying on this random bed, trying to breathe, and the contractions got so strong that it went beyond contraction, and I just felt like I was like pushing, and my doula was like, do you feel like pushing? And I was like, I guess I do. It's not even like conscious, your body just does it. And so it was like, right, okay, like my husband just went to the convenience store, came back with some water and a few snacks because I hadn't eaten anything yet. And by this point it was like, right, the baby's coming right now. And he's like, oh, like grabbing his little plastic bag. So yeah, then we went into the delivery room. I went in at about 10:30 and he was out by 12:30. I mean, at some times it felt never ending, because obviously like the intensity of the contractions is one thing, but they start to get closer together, or they basically, it's either like intense contractions where you just feel this overwhelming urge to push, and then slightly less contractions but still pain, still intensity. It's not the most comfortable time in a woman's life, I'll just say it like that. Very, very intense. And I will be straight with you, contractions are painful in a different way than you can ever imagine. They're painful, but they are actually intense. So when people say things like, don't talk about pain, talk about intensity or pressure, that's not wrong actually, because it is just this intense, especially at the pushing phase, you just like just have to push. Often I was able to kind of catch myself, and when that wave of intensity came, that strongest contraction came, I was able to kind of like push that energy, that breath energy down, and like help him get down, like help his head move down. This is definitely thanks to my doula. She was amazing. She supported me and reminded me and helped me all the way through the birth. I strongly recommend having someone who knows about breath work, who is able to stay calm whilst you're in complete panic. Not panic, but like you're not thinking straight, and you sometimes just need someone to ground you and say, you are doing this, you're doing very well, and just like keep going. So yeah, she was great, and I was able to use that breath work to really firstly calm me and stay positive, like I can do this, but also to help push him out. I really strongly believe that the breath work helped me to deliver so fast. First of all, I was lying on my side. Then I tried it on my back, which I didn't think I was going to do. You see so many things about how it's not really the natural or best way to give birth on your back, but I think that was when they saw the most progress. I mean, changing position does actually help. I could feel the baby's head moving down, but I was like hoping, like, is it transition time? Like, is the head crowning? You know, is it like the Ring of Fire? Because I heard all these names for stuff. For me, that signified that this is like the last push kind of thing. Yeah, so I think like you just don't know which stage you're at, but all you have to do is trust the people that you're with and keep going. Just be a warrior, just keep going. So it was helpful for me to move into the different positions, just because it was kind of, not a break, but it just felt like a bit of, I'm not still lying there like pushing intensely. I went on hands and knees, and that was like quite a nice feeling, but I don't think they saw the progression that they wanted. So I ended up giving birth on my back, and I used, they weren't stirrups, but the bed kind of like split in the middle and the leg bit came up, so I could use that to like push with my legs and then push with these things with my arm, just push with all my might in just like every single, I think even my like fingers were pushing. I was just like a pushing machine. It was like doing the most ginormous poo of your whole life. And on the topic of pooing, you know, this was something that I was like, God, I'm gonna poo myself, I'm probably gonna poo myself, how embarrassing. I completely pooed myself. I have no idea how much, because they were all very kind. They cleared stuff away. There was no kind of like, haha, you pooed. But I think there were times where I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to push with that intensity and a bit of poo not come out. So yeah, I definitely pooed, but I will tell you, excuse the pun, but I didn't really give a shit, because so much is going on. Half a litre of blood's coming out, plus a baby, plus I got 5 people that I don't even know staring at the insides of my vagina. Like, who cares about a bit of poo? So yeah, I did poo, but not particularly bothered by it. Then yeah, the pushing just continued and continued. Very grateful to have my husband there, who is, even when he's freaking out, I think he's able to like have the front of being calm, and just having him there, you know, saying like, you can do this, relax, breathe deeply. That was really helpful. So like when I wasn't pushing, you need to breathe, you know, because you need that oxygen for the baby and for you, and for that energy, you know, that oxygen energy for yourself for the next big push. They were worried actually about his heart rate, because it dropped a couple of times in contractions, and then it went back to normal, and then it dropped to like 70 beats a minute, which was just like, I think that's when everyone was like, okay, this is not good. Yeah, so I was one of these people, I like control. I wanted my birth plan to go as my birth plan. I guess ultimately my plan was to labour at home for as long as possible, which didn't happen because I basically was straight into active labour / transition. And then to try for a natural birth, which I sort of did, but I think when they saw that his heart rate was dropping and that he was clearly in distress, they said, right, we're going to do, is it episiotomy? But basically they're going to do a cut, and then they're going to use a vacuum and just help him out. And it's funny, I've heard other people say this, but like at that time, I was like, just do whatever you need to do. I think firstly, you're in so much pain that having a little cut and some suction help, it's like, fine, yeah, whatever. Like, everything is so intense that you just think at this point, get the baby out. And I really appreciate actually that my doula, she wasn't like, oh my God, panic, his heart rate has dropped. She said it very calmly, like, because I trust her, I trust everyone in that room. It's like, I didn't feel like they just went ahead and did it. I felt like they'd talk to me, even though my brain was like only half there. And they informed me what was happening, and they guided me through so gently that I felt like complete trust and faith they were doing the best for me and for baby. So there were the last few pushes. I mean, I've got the most, like, I just looked at my pictures today. I looked at the vlog that we made from it, and I just laughed because there's one where I'm just like squeezing a random midwife's ass. You just don't know what you're doing. All you're doing is pushing. That's all that matters. I am doing that last push. I don't know if I felt the ring of fire so much. There was just, everything was fire. But I do remember feeling like the baby's head coming out, and then like the body coming out, and it felt like plonk, like an entire baby had just plonked out of your belly, and loads of water and shit coming out. Not shit, but like, well, stuff coming out.
How much less? Oh, it's coming. Oh, the baby's out.
It's just such intensity down there, honestly. And people were like, look at your baby. And I was like, I'm not very good with like blood and things like that. And I think I was just so in my own little kind of like, I've just got to get this done mode, that I kind of like had a little look, but I was like, there's so much blood over there, like, oh my god, whoa, kind of thing. And they took him away. Actually, they didn't give me skin to skin immediately because they were worried about his heart. I mean, ultimately, the baby's health is the most important thing. So they took him off to do what they needed to do. And I was just sort of there like, what? I gave birth, what the hell? Just sort of like coming down, I guess, from that. Well, it was just sheer adrenaline just pumping through my veins. Crazy. So they took him away. They checked that he was fine. I heard a little cry. I was like, okay, thank God, fine. Now I can relax. Well, as much as you can when you still have to push an organ out of your body. So next was removing the placenta and all the various other like stuff that's in there. In Japan, I'm not sure about in other countries, but they do give you a good old, I'm not going to say massage because it was not zen, but they really make sure that all the stuff that needs to come out is out. Like, you know, I'm so tired. The last thing I want is anything coming in or out of there, but obviously needs must. And I could just see this little kind of like foot. He was just like lying in the baby bed, looking at his foot like, oh, I see. That's me, okay. Just really calm, really quiet. Once I was all stitched up, because obviously I was sliced. And I think I can't look down there. I can't, like, it's painful. It's really painful. I don't even want to sit on the toilet, and I'm terrified of like farting, or like I'm not even going to think about doing a poo. I'm not going to do a poo. I can't. Anyway, but got sewn up, and I was so nervous about that as well. My husband's like, just relax. You've given birth to a baby. You can have a bit of stitches. And I was just so nervous. And throughout the labour, I was like, I just need a rest. I need a break. I need a little break, because I felt like intense contraction would be followed by a less intense contraction. It's like I just needed to catch my breath, but there'd be someone sticking their finger up my cervix to try and like coax the baby out and stretch my vagina. I think there was some vagina stretching going on. And then also like someone started like stimulating my nipples, because that's supposed to help. And I was just like, please, can we not? Like, people have got their fingers in every single hole in my body. Why don't you just stick your fingers up my nostrils as well and get it over with? No, but you know, they just did such a fantastic job. So professional, so sweet, really encouraging. All that team, just lovely. Finally, what felt like an eternity after I'd been sewn up and all the placenta and stuff had come out, I got to cuddle with baby.
Good job.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the best feeling ever, really, isn't it? Firstly, you're just in complete shock of what you've just done. Like, even if it was the 7th time giving birth, you'd still be like, what an amazing machine this body is. I made a vow to myself, I'm never going to disrespect my body ever again, because how? I can't fathom how a body can create a perfect mini body with teeny tiny little fingernails and eyelashes and a good head of hair. Just amazing. And push it out, kind of all by itself. Amazing. Then the placenta came out, and she was like, would you like to see the placenta? I was like, yeah. So it was, I mean, I will insert a picture here. Is that allowed, YouTube? Well, there's my placenta anyway. So yeah, I saw the placenta, and then I think I rested there for like an hour. Then I came into this room, which isn't the room that I expected, but I'm actually really happy with it, because you can see it's like a little bit Japanese style, and it's smaller, which is actually a really good thing, because I'm not the most mobile right now. I feel like I've just been hit by a bus and sat on a blender. That's how I feel. So I feel really like sensitive and delicate, and basically I just find different positions to lie in bed, and that's that. And his bed's right next to me, so I can see him there and give him a little love when he gets grumbly. And my husband then like came in with the room with me. My parents-in-law, they just appeared. Like, I think my husband's like, oh, do you mind if my parents come along to see the baby? I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And suddenly they just sort of like a jack in the box arrived, so enthusiastic to meet their grandson. And that was lovely to have a bit of family time. My husband stayed until 9. I think that was visiting hours. Although in this clinic, they also say that he can stay, which is nice. But we've got our first baby, our bunny, at home, needing some love as well. So he's like, I'll go back, see the rabbit, and bring my work stuff because he's, supposed to be working. But yeah, I'm so grateful that he was there with me throughout it all because I needed him. I kept saying throughout the day, I was like, we have a baby, for sure. At some point during pregnancy, I should have figured this out already, but the reality of seeing him there next to us, just, I don't know, it's incredible. I still can't quite believe it. I'm quite, not body shy, but it took me years to fart in front of my husband. I don't want to be gross and stuff. I'm just a bit like kind of funny about that. And I was like, wow, what a bonding experience. I feel like you know me so much more now because you saw me poo, you saw my insides come out, you actually saw my organ, my placenta, so many things. I feel like he's just knows me so well now. But yeah, I mean, this is the new adventure for sure. Pregnancy was an adventure in itself, but I know that now it's like a whole new game, which I'm excited to play. I mean, I will do another video about a Japanese hospital. Yes, I will. And like, what it's like here, because they're just amazing. They are not cheap, but especially in this clinic, nothing but professionalism. I'm so glad that it's like a 5-day stay. I was thinking like, oh my God, get me home. Like, I don't want to stay in a hospital for 5 days. Now, well, I gave birth yesterday and today is today. So the second day, I suppose. And I'm like, this is a dream because I feel so safe. As a first-time mum, I don't know how to do anything. If I'm nervous or like, oh, have I done it right? They'll come in and see it through with me. The same with breastfeeding. You can watch as many videos on the internet about how to breastfeed, but ultimately to have someone to guide you and find out what works for you and your baby is just like, I feel like I would pay for that lesson anyway. I feel so taken care of. And also last night, like typical, baby is sleeping so peacefully, and my husband and I sort of like reflecting on the fact that we now have a child, cool. And then like he left to go home, and that's when baby was like, you know what, I actually have some really powerful lungs, I think I'm gonna use them. And he just like cried. I did what I could, changed him, fed him, burped him, gave him a little cuddle and chatted away to him. And he'd kind of like go to sleep, but he'd start crying. This is the first time I've ever slept next to a tiny little newborn. So every time he would make a little whimper or anything, I would like I'm up like a shot. And I think it was by about 1 a.m. I was like, I've been awake for almost 24 hours. I've done the equivalent of running 3 marathons. And I just need, even if it's just like 3 minutes, I just need a little sleep. And the midwife came in with a smile and said no problem and took care of the baby just so I could get, I think I got 6 hours sleep, and I feel much, much better for it. But I also, yeah, as I said, I do feel like I've been hit by a bus. Like even my arm muscles hurt. I think that must be from the pushing. I'm just really sensitive, and people say like, as soon as the baby's out, the pain's gone. I'm like, no, the pain is definitely not gone. In fact, it's just like going on and on. Yeah, it was tough, it was painful, it was overwhelming at moments, but I did it. I just feel so pleased with myself, so proud of myself for having done it. And of course, no judgment whatsoever about who gets epidural or how you have your baby. Basically, who cares how you have your baby? The fact is that you have brought a human into the world. That in itself is like so amazing, it's miraculous. So I don't judge anyone for how they give birth, but I'm just really proud of how I did mine. And even though there was some interference, that's not the right word, what is it? It's not induction, assistance? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, even though they did have to get involved and cut and vacuum, I'm still really pleased with how things went. And I said earlier that I'm a control freak, so it's like I wanted things to be a certain way, but it's not that things don't go to plan with a birth, but birth has its own plan. You know, birth will go the way that it needs to go in order for mummy and baby to be safe and healthy and happy. And that's exactly what happened. So in a way, I kind of feel like birth went perfectly to plan, because here we are, both slightly sleepy, but very, very happy. And yeah, but I still can't believe this little one is mine. I just woke up this morning and I was like, was that all a big dream? Well, no, my vagina is like, it's definitely not a dream. That was real. But yeah, it was an experience. It was an experience that I'm so glad that I had, not just because I've got this adorable little human here, but also because it's such a unique experience, and one in which you can really find like a new bond with your own body. As strange as that sounds, it's just, you have to trust your body. You have to trust nature. He doesn't have a name yet. We've got 2 names that we're deciding between. My husband's like, you decide. And I'm like, no, you decide, because I like both names just as much as each other. And in Japan, middle names aren't really a thing. They're both Japanese names. One is a bit more classic, I would say, and one is like a bit more playful. But yeah, I'm not sure yet. So hopefully tonight we'll decide. Yeah, what's your name? Yeah, he doesn't know either. All right, thank you so much for watching today. I hope it was interesting for you. Do leave your comments, and yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.